This video will be about Phase 3 of building our earth-sheltered Quonset hut. In Phase 1 we put up a steel Quonset with a little help from our friends. Phase 2 was getting up the Fox Blocks ICF end walls. That part was interesting but took more time. Phase 3 is to cover the Quonset hut and reinforce concrete before we can bury it in Phase 4. These wooden forms are for the skylights, similar to what we did on the bedroom wing. I took a little extra time here to teach Hunter how to weld. I'm sure that'll come in handy later. The simple rebar lattice will hold the shotcrete up and reinforce it as well. The next weekend it was time to clear the stuff we'd been storing next to the Quonset hut. Ethan, the new guy from the last video, brought some of his football teammates, and Hunter brought his brother Brody. Many hands and the skid steer made light work and we cleared it up in a couple hours. We also drilled holes for the rebar, 5/8 inch diameter and about 3 inches deep, following a wooden template that made it pretty foolproof. Concrete is heavy and expensive, so the plan was to minimize the concrete on the top of the roof by filling in the top section of each crenulation with 4 inches of styrofoam. Then we covered the Quonset in a layer of 6mm plastic to protect it. We left it droopy so the concrete could push it into the crenulations. Then we got started on the rebar. Just straight rebar stuck in the holes and then flopped over and tied to a horizontal bar that was on the roof. We also got going on the other horizontal rebar and then put the outer layer of vertical rebar in. Then the guys will go back over and tie the intersections with simple bar ties. Back to the west side to add the outer rebar. The horizontal keeps the new rebar from falling into the crenulation, and then we slap up verticals over that. By this point, the guys had figured out the plan and we were moving along pretty well. The Quonset is 40 feet long and the rebar pieces are 20 feet long each, so not much overlap in the middle. But I came back later off camera with 4-foot long pieces to double up that middle section. After the guys left, Sherry and the boys and I decided to try to finish up on our own. The next day the man lift arrived. We had rented it for the Shotcrete guys, but of course I had to check it out myself. Here's a flyover of the final rebar work. Then the shotcrete got rolling, sort of. The air compressor was broken, the same thing happened last time, so they were just pumping it out. I also had them fill some footings forms that I'd forgotten earlier. The next day they rented a compressor and got cranking on the west side. They tried to get too ambitious and a bunch slumped off, so they went over to the east side. They came back again after the west side had hardened a bit, then back and forth. The lift was really essential for getting this done in a reasonable amount of time. Actually, they would have liked to have had 2 lifts so one half of the crew could shoot and the other half could finish. Not sure if that would have been a better financial decision, lifts are not cheap, but the one was certainly worth the money. Here's another ride at the end of the day. They would need to come up and finish those top sections, but I liked that they had completed some of the hoops of concrete all the way across, so those could set before the rest of the roof was completed. Another day. The guys were talking about some job somewhere down south where Shotcrete guys actually died when the Quonset hut they were walking on collapsed. I googled it but couldn't find anything, so maybe that's just Shotcrete folklore. Pretty soon they were stomping around up there too. The This last step was shooting the sides of the skylights and doing a final surface coat. At this point we have 2 tons of rebar and 40 cubic yards of concrete. This will be a very strong structure. The smoother parts were much easier to waterproof later. Waterproofing over the shotcrete will be the next step.